Welcome to this week's Food Sports Central, the podcast of the World Food Championships. And we're continuing on our journey to meet the 10 competitors, the 10 people that won their category at the World Food Championships this past November in Dallas. And, each one has a bit of a different story. We have long term veterans that have been with us almost since the beginning. We have rookies. We even have a couple of sophomores that in their second year won their category. And there's a lot of hustle and bustle and excitement over the fact that final table is really just around the corner. We're right in the middle of some of the biggest things in food right now. You have things like all the big food shows, the National Restaurant Association show, the Vegas Restaurant Show, NAFM down in Orlando, and then things like the SEA championships and barbecues in full swing. So there's a lot happening right now. And all during that, these top 10 competitors are trying to get ready to compete for their chance at winning the title of World Food Champion and the big $100,000 purse and prizes that comes along with that. It's a tremendous amount of pressure. They'll know and learn a few tidbits along the way of what they're going to face, that culinary gauntlet that is final table. There'll be 3 rounds of competitive cooking. Each one will be different, and you'll start with 10 competitors. After round 1, you'll have 5. Then those 5 competitors will go to round 2, and you'll come out with 3 in the final round. Those 3 will battle it out for the title. It is going to be in Bentonville, Arkansas. We are going to have some very interesting guests there. We're going to have some very interesting twists and turns to what the competitors have to cook because, after all, it is a culinary gauntlet. So, without further ado, I want to introduce the champion out of our state category that really had heavy hitters throughout that entire category. They were going up against the previous state champion. They were also going up against the reigning world food champion. That category was stacked, and our champion is known to the food sport world. Just came back out of battling it out at the SEA championship. And I want to welcome to Food Sports Central Peter Armendariz. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, Mark. How you doing today? I'm doing pretty good,
I'm
honestly.
good, man.
Yeah.
I'm good.
hmm
You've had I'd say a pretty busy 6 months.
It's been pretty, for the most part, I've been traveling. When I have cooked, and even when I'm not cooking, it seems like I'm always traveling. And since November, I ended up going up to Graham out there at Possum Kingdom outside of Dallas. Cooked the ancillaries just so I could earn my golden ticket for this year that we just finished up. In the sausage category there at the SCA World Championships. And then after that, I ended up going up down to Ocean Springs, Mississippi to the shed to compete over there, which is an amazing competition. And that was in January. And then right after that, flew down to Vegas to go cook. And then, since then, cooked to the SCA World Championship week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Heck, I don't even know anymore.
You've been so many places and doing so many things, it all starts to blur together. I totally understand that. It's like talking with you and talking with Damon. You guys are just competing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's that driver? What's that thing that pushes you to compete in food sports so heavily and so much?
Well, I think a lot of it, competition's one of them. I mean, I think we all, want to go in there and win. I think, at any contest that we go to that, it can be anybody's day, but there's so many talented individuals out there that we want to go and try to compete against the best of the best. But the other part of it, and I think, that probably gets touched on quite a bit is the food sport family. I compete not only in SCA, and WFC, but it's been KCBS, IBCA in barbecue, Lone Star Barbecue, Champion Barbecue Alliance. What else? And a bunch of non-sanctioned events as well too. But a lot of it has to do with, I think it's just that family that we meet, along the trail and along the roadways and see these places that normally, why would we go to some town in the middle of Kansas or middle of Texas or wherever else other than, other than vacation maybe, but for the most part, some of these places are just, a blip on the road. I mean, I live out in a blip on the road myself, but a lot of it has to do with just, it's traveling, meeting people, experiencing new places, seeing roads that you may never have gone before, and food along the way as well too.
And those are the things. I mean, it's all of those things you talk about. We always say that food sport is like a giant family reunion. Being at
Mm-hmm.
WFC is everybody getting back together again. And, you know, it's very easy to say, I mean, that's the life I want to go. That's where I want to go. And that's why you see so many people who have made a career out of competing in food sport, just like any other professional sport. And this was your second go around at World Food Championships. The first year you were there, you came up second, runner up to Sunny. And now this year, the tables turned and you came up champion in the state category, which, man, you want to talk about a loaded category. You had everybody in there that was about as heavy hitter as you can get,
Mm-hmm.
especially in that culinary world, that steak world. And you managed to go, toe to toe with all of them and come out on top. That had to feel amazing.
It was pretty special. I got my sister or my mom was down there, and then of course I had my team back, and then added an additional team member this year. Uh, but it's really hard to explain because the year before we came up so close, and then Sonny pulled it out, which is amazing. And then this year, it came down to us as the final two again. And I'm like, man, please just don't let this be deja vu. At least not for me. I'm sure Sonny wanted it to be deja vu, but it was to have some other friends that were in the barbecue world there, and even in some of the other categories that I've met, and for them to be there and cheering me on, it was pretty awesome. And like I said, my mom was there to experience that with me, and to see those some of these other rock star judges and champions that are there, and they're congratulating you afterwards as well too, former world champions in other categories, but people that have put food sports on the
Mhm.
map, and just this culinary experience too.
So, as you come out, besides the obvious of coming
Mhm.
out on top and winning, was there anything that felt different between year one and year two? Because a lot of people talk about we've had a lot of category winners on their rookie season, but I think we're seeing just as many in the sophomore season, which in a lot of other sports, sophomore most people experience a slump, but we're starting to see in food sport that sophomore year is really the year people start turning it around. What was some of the differences between year one and year two for you besides winning?
Well, this year was a little bit different. I mean, for the state category, it wasn't just the SCA portion that they allowed the qualifiers in the championship round. They only took the top five in the SCA, and then the very next day they had the eat category, which we didn't have
Hmm.
my first year. And so I went ahead and signed up for both of them, just to make sure I hedged my bets, to make sure I got in one way or another. And like you said, because there's so many talented people out there that you might be number six and you're left sitting out there on the porch, and I didn't want that to happen to myself and my team. So I already had a game plan coming in as far as, okay, what we're going to do. I'm gonna still run my same SCA recipe that I've been running essentially almost for the past 2 years, maybe 2.5 years now. I can't even think anymore. But it's been pretty close recipe for a while. It's been pretty successful for me. And then the next day, I knew the eat category. Okay, well, we only have to turn in 5 dishes. We're still cooking outside, which is great because I mean that's where I feel that can actually be an advantage to some of us that are on the trail that are having to deal with different elements. Because if you were there on as you were there on Friday, that we had floods coming down. We were
Hmm.
on the pavement, but there was still water coming in. The wind was blowing. It was cold on Friday, and on the SCA
Hmm.
part. And I mean, it was like, man, is this going to be how it is all weekend? This is not going to be fun at all. And then the next day, sun opened up a little bit, and warmed up some. It was still chilly, still had a little breeze here and there, but this one, it was like, okay, you know the goal was to get in on day one, in SCA. We ended up, I think, fourth on day one. And then day two, it's like, if it depending on what happened, was like, we're going to go in there, we're just going to cook, and we're going to have fun and take that stress level off us. And that's essentially what happened this year. We ended up second in the eat category, and I thought we put on a pretty phenomenal dish, and and thankfully the judges agreed with us. So as far as I know, we were the only team that actually double qualified in both rounds. for the championship. So it was like the other part of it was, I wanted to
Mhm.
let other people know there too that, we weren't there just to have fun. We were there to, to make a statement and to let them know that we're going to be coming for blood. You
And
know.
you did. I mean, for sure. Double qualifying, getting in there, banging it out, winning, and walking out of there. And man, it was fun to watch you. You were wildly excited coming out of there. You know, your whole team was. The fans were all for you there. It was fantastic to watch. Walk us through what your championship winning dish was out of that top 10 round.
So we had Hassel Cattle Company was the steak provider again this year. So this year was a
Hmm.
was a sirloin, and out here where I'm at, there were steakhouses that got famous on sirloins. They call them the KC steaks out this way and stuff. And so they'll big a big old platter, a mound. So if you get like a KC for one, you can feed 2 to 3 people essentially with that, and so on and so forth. And so I
Hmm.
was, I've been familiar with that because it's a little bit cheaper cut a lot of times. But if you want steak, that's a good one, especially to start with. It's a lot easier to mess up a sirloin than it is to mess up a fillet. When you're having to spend that kind of money. But so I knew, okay, well, this is gonna be kind of hometown a little bit. So I wanted them to get kind of that experience that I had, to where it's like I'm gonna give them a steak. And the other part of it was we had Bolner's Fiesta. Their seasoning was the mango
Hmm.
habanero seasoning. So thankfully there's a lot of every store around here carries Fiesta seasonings, and so picked it up. Amazingly, I didn't. It wasn't as spicy as I expected it to be. So you still had a little bit of that heat in there,
Right.
uh,
Hmm.
and so you had that super savoriness that came all through that process. And so, I mean, it seemed like it was for weeks once it was announced that, okay, what kind of dish am I going to be able to do to help create to really add these flavors to it. And I think kind of some of the other competitors kind of felt the same way. So, okay, we already got mango habanero in there. Let's see what I can do. And so, we ended up the dish, we called it a Cowboy Caribbean Wagyu sirloin with uh, Caribbean style crab cakes. And so that was the crab cakes was a combination of kind of the Caribbean flavors along with the East Coast flavors that a lot of people are used to. And I was hoping that nobody else is going to be doing crab cakes this year, which it wouldn't surprise me if they had, because but I
Hmm.
went, tested a few recipes out, and came up and caramelized some fresh mango, ginger, garlic, uh, green onions, and then finished off with a little peach glaze from my buddy, my team member, Chad Whittington, Lottie's Pepper Jelly, Maggie's Farms Lottie's Pepper Jelly. And believe it or not, it was a really good finish for that dish. We had 3 cheese scallop potatoes and a marinated cucumber salad to go along with that. So it turned out pretty well, and tried to give them a little bit of that flavor punch that we wanted to, because the goal for me was sirloin is not going to be as tender as a fillet, but I wanted to make it as tender as possible. So I spent
Hmm.
quite a long time tenderizing that myself, and then hitting those flavor elements that were, I'm going to give them a good pop, get them a really good savoriness too, and then balance it out with a little bit of sweet vinegar savoriness as well too throughout the potatoes and salad.
And it worked because the master judges panel was blown away with your steak. They absolutely loved it. It was just, they just kept talking about it. So it definitely hit all of those notes and resonated with a panel of judges that really kind of came from that background of that good steak plate. You know, that traditional steak plate. That's what they were used to, and
Hmm.
you hit every single one of their notes. So you win final table, or you win the state category. You're on your way to final table. What is it? You know, what kind of is running through your mind right now as you're preparing for an opportunity to become the world food champion and $100,000 in cash and prizes?
So right now, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. We're going to go in there. We're already talking recipes back and forth. I mean, they haven't really revealed a whole lot to us. We're going to have I think our fourth Zoom meeting this Friday, Thursday or Friday. And so now, there's a couple chefs out there in Bentonville, Arkansas that are, they're going to be contrasting, which is awesome. You have a chef from California, with roots to Michoacan, Mexico, which is unfamiliar to me because I grew up with Tex-Mex, which is completely different. There's going to be some flavor elements that are going to be, they're going to be similar. And then you have another chef that's I don't think he's there from Arkansas originally too, but he's curates a museum there, and it's phenomenal. So you're gonna have this combination of, I think, you know Southern style cuisine, and then you have this Cali Mex influence that we're gonna start off with. And so it's like, okay, what can we do, that's still going to be able to, once they release the information, to be able to hit what those guys do, or at least come as close as possible, and still put our signatures on there as well too. Because my team, they come up from North Carolina, Alabama, and then myself from Texas. So it's a pretty wide range of individuals, and they're all talented in all regards. With Trip Ryan, he was actually on Sonny's team the year before, slid over to me, which was great. And then Chad Whittington and Mary Jo. And Mary Jo's kind of that helps balance us out, because when you get all three of us guys together, it can be a little wild. And she's kind of this beauty that kind of comes in there and kind of helps keep us from going off the rails, so to speak.
Which is easy to do when you get a bunch of guys in a kitchen together.
For
You
sure.
know, it seems like you've got a good plan heading in. You're going to pick up a little more details along the way, but you're going to cook your way, you know, within the guidelines of the gauntlet. Where can people follow you on social media that kind of want to keep up with what you're doing in food sport, and what your journey's like?
So on Instagram, you could follow me at my main one's Armendariz Peter. So last name, first name at Instagram. I'm on there on Twitter, but I really don't mess with it so much. And then also the Texas Revolution on Instagram as well too. So I just created that one recently, and so you can kind of get both bits and pieces from both of them. Same thing on Facebook as well too. I think it's Peter.Armendariz, on Facebook. So I mean, you could follow me on both of them. I'll do reels not only from food, but maybe some from my backpacking, adventures, with the Boy Scouts, and just some of the other stuff, day to day life that I end up doing as well too.
Well, guys, you want to follow the champ. This is our steak champion heading into the final table. We'll be in Bentonville, Arkansas in mid-May to find out who will be the next food sport champion. Make sure that you're following the World Food Championships on all of the social medias. It's at World Food Championships. And then bookmark and check regularly the website, worldfoodchampionships.com. There's a lot of information coming out. And over the next, I'd say, several weeks, you're going to see even more coming out about Final Table, about registering for qualifying events around the country, and about the big show back in Dallas this year for our 11th anniversary. So make sure that you're checking the website regularly, because otherwise you're going to miss a deadline. You're going to miss some information you need, and you don't want to be left out in the rain, so to speak. So, guys, it's been another great week. Thank you so much, Champ, for stopping in and spending some time with us in the middle of your road to the final table.
I appreciate it, Mark. Thanks for taking the time out with me. Thanks to Mike McLeod and everybody else in the WFC that put on these great events for everybody, not only in the United States but Australia and then around the country. Because without the leadership, and then also the other volunteers that go along with it, us competitors, it's hard to fill that void sometimes. And I want to thank the other competitors out there, not only in the state categories but the other ones as well too, because it's like there's so many talented individuals and people out there that, we only get better by the company we keep and the people we go against. And so, therefore, it's like that's what we want. We want to be the best of the best. And, I thank everybody else out there for doing what they do.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that is a sentiment that is echoed throughout the food sport world. All right, guys. That's been Food Sport Central, the podcast of the World Food Championships. I am, of course, Mark Conway, and I'll see you next time.